How did the British get Hong Kong? Well, it all started in 1836 when the Chinese government introduced a policy to ban opium. In 1839, the policy was put into action, and the Chinese government ordered the British traders to surrender their opium stock, but the British refused. So the Chinese government took further action by confining the British traders in their factories and cutting off their supplies. Finally, the British traders surrendered their opium stock because the British government promised that they would be responsible for it. After this incident, the Chinese government destroyed over 20,283 chests of opium. After what happened, the British asked the Chinese government to pay the British Empire back for the destroyed opium. And if the Chinese didn't pay the British back, the British would send in their powerful navy. The threat worked. The Chinese government paid the British by giving them Hong Kong. In the year 1841, Hong Kong turned into a British colony, and from that day onwards, the British transformed the colony into a wealthy trading port. Hong Kong's location was important because it had many ports and was not far off from land, making trading much easier. The second reason was the Opium Wars. The Opium War was basically a war over drugs, and the British won due to their powerful navy and army. This is also why the British government wanted Hong Kong, in trade for the destroyed British opium. When Britain took over, they forced Christianity as the main religion in Hong Kong. And evidence can be still seen today by looking at the churches that have still not been destroyed. They also have adopted British law and some British sports, like jockey. The stereotype of British drinking tea could be traced back to Hong Kong because that's where they got some of their tea from. Hong Kong adopted and adapted the trading that was present during the British rule. They also switched from trading as a primary industry to manufacturing goods. This made Hong Kong have more resources. As a result of this, Hong Kong is now one of the major trading countries in the world. In 1961, Hong Kong adapted the use of automobiles that were given to them by trade with England. This also opened up trade from a lot of other countries in the world. The British could enter Hong Kong without needing a visa because Hong Kong was British. The Hong Kong area consists of three parts: Hong Kong, the Kowloon Peninsula, and the New Territories. The New Territories are leased by England in 1898 for 99 years. Another important thing is that the British government issued local Hong Kongs with a British passport. Most Chinese wanted to escape China and get into Hong Kong because it's a lot more free, the lifestyle is better, you get more income, but some people couldn't afford houses, so they had to live in junks. But the people that lived in junks will come out to greet the traders and also dive for quarters and pennies and have nets in case the foreign traders drop any souvenirs. The junks also help load and unload trading items to and from bigger vessels. In 1941, during the Second World War, the British had an agreement with the Chinese government that if Japan attacked Hong Kong, the Chinese National Army would attack the Japanese from the rear to help the British out. On the 8th of December, the Battle of Hong Kong began. The Japanese destroyed British air power in one attack. 2 days later, the Japanese reached the New Territories. The British commander, Major General Christopher Maltby, said that the island could no longer be defended for long unless he withdrew his troops from the mainland. A day after the invasion, the Chinese general ordered 3 army corps under General Yu to march towards Hong Kong. The plan was to launch an attack on the Japanese during New Year's Day in the Canton region. But before the Chinese could attack, the Japanese had broken Hong Kong's defenses. The Japanese imprisoned the ruling British colonial elite Then Hong Kong was transformed into a Japanese colony, with Japanese businesses replacing the British. However, the Japanese Empire had difficulties, and by 1943, the food supply for Hong Kong due to World War II was turning into a huge problem for them. On the 14th of August 1945, when the Japanese lost World War II, and then they signed the Agreement of Unconditional Surrender, the British put together a naval fleet to sail towards Hong Kong. After that, Hong Kong was back into British hands, and Sir Mark Young was back as the governor of Hong Kong in early May of 1946. On December 19th, 1984, the Sino-British Joint Declaration was signed by both the Prime Minister of the UK and the Prime Minister of the People's Republic of China. The declaration stated that the People's Republic of China will have control over Hong Kong, which included the Hong Kong Islands, Kowloon, and the New Territories. In conclusion, Britain got Hong Kong because of the Opium Wars, which Britain won because of their military strength. After that, Hong Kong was British for 99 years. Then it was given back to the Chinese government in 1997. The Hong Kong people did not want to stay in Hong Kong because they were scared of Communist China and how they would rule Hong Kong in the future. The advantages of being colonized in Hong Kong were economic growth, modern civilization, and better living of the Hong Kong people. However, when Hong Kong was about to be given back to China, a lot of wealthy businessmen in Hong Kong moved to settle in other countries, mostly in Canada, due to the fear of communism influence and increased restriction on business and political rights.